Good morning. My name is Rhonda Walker, and this is my story. At a very young age, my stepfather began to sexually abuse me. He abused me all the way up until the age of 16 when I was in the 11th grade. I remember he would come in my room late at night, take me out of my bed, take me downstairs, and lay me on the couch that the entire family would sit on day after day. And as he laid me on the couch, he would begin to touch my private area. He would begin to touch my breast, and I could smell his breath. That's just how close his mouth was to mine. I remember telling my mom about the abuse and her promising me that she would not let my stepfather know that I told her. I remember him being put out of the house. I remember us having to go to court. I remember my mom being mad and angry with me, making me feel as though the abuse was my fault. I remember at court, before we actually went into the courtroom, her telling me to tell the judge that I made the entire story up. She wanted me to lie so that she could protect her husband. And being a young kid and being raised to never question my parents, that's what I did. And so I remember my stepfather coming back home and the abuse continuing, like I said, up until my 11th grade year in high school. I remember being raped in the 9th grade. I remember my mom finding out about the rape, and instead of her holding me and consoling me and telling me that everything would be okay, she belittled me and yelled at me, told me it was all my fault. I remember that day when she found out, after she yelled and screamed at me and made threats and called me the names that you surely wouldn't call your child. She left and went to work, and I remember just wanting to end it all, just wanting to die. And so that was the first time that I attempted suicide. Some years later, I remember getting pregnant. Actually, a year later, in the 10th grade, I got pregnant by a guy that I was dating. And I remember telling my mom about me being pregnant, and her telling me that I needed to have an abortion. I don't recall her sitting down and asking me how I felt, if I wanted to have an abortion or how I felt about having an abortion. I just remember her saying that I needed to have one because I was too young. And so I did. I remember her taking me to the abortion clinic and sitting in this room with other young girls, some women, scared, some alone, some crying, some just looking down at the floor because they were too ashamed to show their face. I remember when the doctor called me back because it was my turn. Now, I don't believe in abortions today. I don't feel as though a woman should kill a child. But at that time, it wasn't really my choice. My mom told me I needed to do it, and I did. And I remember laying on that table alone, even though there were doctors and nurses in the room. I was alone. My mom didn't come in the room with me. I don't know. Either they didn't allow her to, or maybe she didn't want to. But I remember laying on that table alone as the doctors sucked my child out of me. And after, I remember feeling like the worst person on the face of this earth. I remember feeling like, how could I do this? When we left the abortion clinic, I remember laying in the back seat of my mom's car, crying, because I knew what I had done was the worst thing that a person could do. As time went on, we eventually moved. The abuse from my stepfather continued. And then my 11th grade year of high school, I told a friend about the abuse my stepfather was doing. She in turn told someone, a counselor, I believe, in the school, and I was taken out of the home. They didn't remove him. We never went to court again. They just removed me as though I were the problem. And so I was put into the Georgia foster care system and eventually aged out of the Georgia foster care system. And so my last year of high school, I ended up getting pregnant again with my oldest son. Ended up getting married right after high school and stayed married 2 years. Ended up going through a divorce. Ended up getting pregnant with my daughter and getting remarried shortly thereafter. That marriage lasted for about 8 years. And I remember during that marriage just having a lot of anger, a lot of rage. I hated myself. I hated who I was. I hated who I had become. I was drinking. I was fighting my ex-husband. I was just angry. I was so angry at everybody, including myself. I didn't have a good relationship with my mother or a good relationship with really anyone in my family. I just hated everybody. I didn't feel as though I deserved to be here. And so I remember one time sitting in the car, wanting to die, sitting at a red light, and just wanting to just kill myself because I didn't feel like I needed to be here. I didn't feel like anyone wanted me here. I didn't feel like I would be missed if I killed myself. And so that was my plan that day. It was to take my foot off the gas and just roll out into oncoming traffic. But God had a different plan because I'm still here. You know, growing up, because I had so much hurt and so much pain, and I didn't have anyone to talk to, anyone to share my issues with or share my struggles with, or ask questions to, because my mom was a functional alcoholic, and even though she was probably going through some stuff too, she turned to alcohol. And of course, I couldn't go and talk to my brothers because, well, they were boys and just didn't feel comfortable. And so I had no way to release my pain and my anger, my frustrations. And I began to cut myself. not to kill myself at that time. It was just, it worked for me, I guess. Just getting a razor and cutting on my arm and seeing the blood come out. And as I saw the blood come out, it was as though I was releasing some type of emotional pain for me. And I did that all the way up until the age of 21, well into or at the beginning of my second marriage. And so my second marriage, it wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the best either. It was a lot of anger and rage on my part, and just a lot of confusion and not knowing how to get the help that I needed for the things that I had already been through. I used to fight my ex-husband whenever I got mad because that's what I knew. My mom and my stepdad used to fight constantly. That's what they did. And in turn, that's what I did. So eventually that marriage dissolved and I moved. I left. I was in Georgia at the time, and so I totally left the whole state and moved here to Texas. Me and my two youngest children. My oldest son was living with his father in Atlanta. And so I moved here to Texas. Wanted to try and get my life together somehow. But I still had a lot of anger and hurt and pain deep inside of me. And so it was a struggle. I moved here and I really had no one. I have no family here. And it was rough. I experienced being homeless, and I experienced having to stand outside the store and beg strangers for money to feed my children. I experienced another rape while my children slept upstairs. By the time that we ended up homeless, I was lost because I didn't know what to do. I remember going to the Star of Hope, me and my kids, waiting in the lobby area until they started the intake process to see if they had room for us. I remember they calling us back so we could grab something to eat, and us going through the line and them feeding us. I remember sitting at the table with my kids, making sure they ate. The whole bunch of other homeless people. And just feeling like I don't belong here. This isn't where I'm supposed to be. I felt like I was better than the people that were sitting around me. But the truth was, I'm no better than anybody. I was in the same boat that they were in. I was homeless. And so after we ate, I remember going back into the intake area. The lady calling us up to the front desk and letting us know that they had no room for us. And so now I was really homeless. I couldn't even fit in at the homeless shelter. And so I remember breaking down and crying and sitting in the car with my kids. My youngest son was in the back seat, laying down on the back seat with some cover over him. He was tired. It was late. My daughter was in the passenger seat, the seat pulled back with some coats over her because she was tired. And I was sitting in the driver's seat just thinking, how did I get here? How did I get here? I was thinking how I was such a failure. failure to my kids, failure to myself. It's just a failure. That's how I felt. And that feeling overwhelmed me so much to the point where my only option was to not just kill myself, but to kill my kids too. Because I felt like they didn't deserve to go through what they were going through. They didn't ask to be here. And that was my plan, somehow, to just take us all out. But God had a different plan, because I'm still here. So eventually, we were able to find somewhere to go. We stayed. My ex-husband had some cousins here that we didn't know about, and they allowed us to stay with them until I could get a place of my own. And so we stayed there, and eventually I was able to get an apartment for me and my kids. But I was still broken. I was still so very, very broken. I wasn't me. I can't say I wasn't me, because I didn't even know who me was. I didn't even know who Rhonda was. I was just a shell, just walking, just getting up, going to work, coming home, feeding my kids the best I could, doing the best I could, not enjoying life, not enjoying my kids, not enjoying anything. I was just here. I was alone, hurt. I was just here. But I knew that I couldn't stay in this place, because I knew that if I allowed myself to stay in this place, that I wouldn't win. I knew that if I allowed myself to stay broken and hurt and angry, I wouldn't make it. And so I needed to find a way out. I needed to be free. I needed to be free. And thankfully, God heard my prayers. He heard my prayers, because He came in and He allowed me to be free. He showed me that I wasn't the person that the enemy made me believe that I was. He showed me that even though I had been through the things that I had been through, that's not who I was. He showed me that I am a survivor, that I am an overcomer. And he shared with me that if I would just open up my heart and allow Him in, allow Him to lead me, allow Him to guide me, if I would just trust Him, that I could be healed completely, 100%. It was hard, because I had to forgive. I had to forgive those who hurt me. I had to forgive my stepfather for abusing me. I had to forgive my mom. I had to forgive the people that raped me. I had to forgive those who I felt had turned their back on me. I had to forgive myself. And it was so, so hard. But I did it. I did it. I was able to forgive. I was able to apologize to myself. I was able to apologize to my children. I was able to apologize to my ex-husband. I was able to allow God to come in and to restore me, to make me into the mother and the woman and the person that He saw fit for me to be. It wasn't me. I tell people all the time when I share my story, when I share my testimony, when I share my truth, I tell people all the time it was not me, because had it been me alone, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Had it been me alone, I wouldn't have my own nonprofit organization helping other people, helping other women. Had it been me alone, I wouldn't be happily married to the wonderful man that I'm married to. I wouldn't be an author. I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be living my life in peace. It wasn't me. It was God. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that He saw something in me. He saw what I couldn't. He saw what the enemy wouldn't allow me to see. And I'm so thankful for that, because He had a different plan for me. And I just want to let everyone know, I know I'm not alone. I know there are so many other people who've been abused and who've been raped. And I just want you to know you're not alone. You don't have to go through this by yourself. If you could just trust and believe in God, believe that He'll never leave you. Believe that even though you're going through, He's right here with you. You just have to reach out and touch Him. You just have to trust, and you just have to believe that He'll get you through. I promise you, He'll get you through. I tell myself and I tell my children all the time, don't put your trust in man, because man will disappoint you every step of the way. Put your trust in God, because it's only Him that will stand by you every single step, through every trial, through every tribulation. He's right there. There were times when I hated God for what I had been through. And even during those times, He still covered me. He still protected me. So yes, I've been sexually abused. Yes, I've been raped twice. Yes, I've been homeless. Yes, I've had to beg strangers for food to feed my babies. Yes, I've been broken. Yes, I have been all of those things. But that was then. Today, I'm healed. Today, I'm a survivor. And it was all by the grace of God. Not me. Nothing to do with me at all. It was all God. And I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful that He was there. I can't explain to anyone how hard it was when I didn't have that relationship with him. I have lived some dark, dark, dark times. I have experienced some horrible things. I have allowed myself to have some horrible, horrible thoughts. But by the grace of God, He removed me from that. And He brought me here. He helped me to become who I am today. A woman of God, a strong believer. Your faith will be tested. Nothing in this life is easy. You will have trials. You will have tribulations. You will have issues and problems. It's gonna happen. But as long as you believe and trust in the Lord, you can overcome. You just got to take that step. You just have to believe His word. I tell everybody, for me, it's not about religion. It's about relationship. Relationship with God. And so I encourage you today to seek that relationship with God. I encourage you today to strengthen that relationship with God. Because that and that alone is what saved me and what will save you as well. This is my truth. My name is Yolanda Walker. And I love you to life. And I thank you for watching my video. Have a blessed day.